It has always been said Kanto was haunted by a mysterious force. Legend had it to be ghosts, unlike the native Pokemon, such as Haunter and Gengar. They were ghosts unidentifiable to any Pokedex. They were ghosts of the dead, Pokemon spirits of Lavender Town, trapped in a Pokemon cemetery multiple stories high. I'm a Pokemon trainer native to Hoenn. After completing the Elite Four of my land, I decided to travel from Hoenn to Kanto to continue my training, and I decided to start back at the beginning. My name is Brendan. I took a boat ride on the SS Anne to Vermilion City, knowing I'd have to backtrack to Pewter City in order to get the first badge. Since Lavender Town was the next town over, I decided to take a look around to see if this myth was true. If it was, it would be great news for Mr. Birch, the professor who gave me my first Pokemon, a Torchic. I noticed an old man standing next to the dock of the SS Anne. I walked up to him to ask for directions. As I walked up to him, I could see his scarred face. I assumed he knew what I was asking. Excuse me, sir? I asked. Would you happen to know the way to Lavender Town? He stared at me blankly momentarily, then said, Ah, yes, Lavender Town. Why you going there? In those weird clothes? Sir, I'm a Pokemon trainer, and I want to learn more about the cemetery. He took a long step backwards. You're going there for that? My God, boy, are you mad? No, sir. I was just sent here by a professor from my home region, Hoenn, and I heard about this myth. And I want... The man cut me off. A myth? You think it's a myth? It's everything but that, a damn myth. What's your name? Brendan, sir. Brendan, you've got to be mad to want to go there. Sir, I just want answers from my professor. He sighed. Very well. I shall give you directions, but I can even give you the name for a friend of mine that should be showing up there around the time you are, if you leave right now. Well, thanks. What's his name? No one really knows his name. Everyone just calls him Red. Red, you say? He's a legend where I come from. Oh, he's real, all right. You can bet your Pokédollars on that. He hands me a small sheet of paper. That'll get you where you're going. Thank you, sir. And do you know how to get there from there to Pewter City? I'm trying to get the badges from this region. Nah, I don't got all that to do. Ask Red. He has a map. And if you don't run into him, ask the townsfolk. They're nice people. I see a touch of concern in his eyes. Okay, well, thanks, sir. No problem, Brendan. But just remember, keep your strongest Pokemon at the ready. You never know what you're gonna find there, or if you'll ever make it out. As I walked away, I was rearranging my Pokeballs in my bag so that Blaziken, my strongest and most trusted Pokemon, was at the top. I wasn't really afraid. I just took the old man's advice. He seemed to know quite a lot. Probably been around a lot. I looked at the piece of paper, and it says, in chicken scratch writing, go to east on Route 11, then north onto Route 12. Seemed easy enough. As I passed little kids on the route, I began to reminisce of the old times of when I first started, all the years ago, when I was 10. Now I'm 15, and realizing what I took for granted. I miss being a little kid running around with his best friend, not trying to get anywhere, just having fun. Now it's serious business. Never stop. Just keep going. I haven't seen May in months. The last time I saw her was at the Elite Four. Ever since then, she's been going to town after town, catching all the Pokemon she can find. I honestly think she's gone mad, taking the catch-em-all thing a tad too far. I stopped to watch the young trainers, see if their skill was any better than mine when I started. There was a lot of Pokemon I had never seen before. It's amazing that some of these Pokemon can't be found in Hoenn, and here I am, watching them battle. I better get going. Lavender Town is more important than these young trainers. After a few minutes of walking, I came to the sign signifying that Route 12 is coming up. I got anxious. I couldn't wait to see what I have been hearing about all this time. When I turned onto the route, I walked a bit. I felt this darkness come over me, like something I never felt before. It was odd. Little kids I ran into were all walking slowly back and forth. Not talking, not laughing, just walking. They looked like they were mesmerized by something, or haunted by someone. I walked right past. They started creeping me out. At the top of the route, I can see the top of a tower. I hope it's the cemetery. I started running. I couldn't wait. I got to the town, and I, in a nutshell, stopped running. Without my will, I started walking. It was odd. I walked to the Pokemon Center. It was a small town, not many people by the looks of it. I passed the cemetery. It seemed as if light was bending away from it, as if whatever force that was in the tower was pushing it away. I saw a young boy run past me into the center, tears running down his face. He was carrying his fainted Pokemon, Eradicate. I remember seeing him on the SSA and being really pumped to battle. Something bad must have happened to make his Pokemon faint like that. He went up to the counter. "Please, miss, help my Eradicate. He's not waking up." Nurse Joy looked down at the Eradicate. I came closer to the counter. The Eradicate was covered in bloodstains, cuts, and bruises. Whoever did this obviously didn't understand the saying, "Don't kick a Rapidash when it's down." "I'm sorry, young man," Joy said. "But a Pokemon in this condition wouldn't be able to be revived with our machines, or any healing machine. I'm sorry, but your Eradicate won't be waking up." The young boy collapsed, bawling his eyes out. I couldn't just stand there. I had to do something. I bent over to the ground. "Hey, pal, what's your name?" Through tears, he said, "Gary." "Hi, Gary. I'm Brendan. I'm from another region, called Hoenn." He kept looking to the ground, continuing to cry. "Gary, look up at me." He looked up and glared at me. "Your Eradicate may never wake up, but remember, it's up with the rest of the Pokemon who have taken beatings like this. He's happy up there. Sure, he misses you, and I can see you'll miss him, but you gotta be strong. I haven't gotten to be a trainer for 5 years by letting everything get me down. You've got to be strong. Pokemon training can be tough, but never stop. Got it?" He stood up and looked me in the eye. "You're right, mister. I can't stay down. I've got to stay strong." He reaches out for a hug. The least I can do is give him a hug back. "Thanks, mister." "No problem." The nurse turns to us. "Son, if you need a place to bury him, the cemetery has burials for only 50 Pokédollars. The boy looked down again. "Ah, dang it. I don't have any money. The trainer that beat me took it all." I reached around and unzipped my bag to grab my wallet. I had 10,000 Pokédollars. If I had a 50, I'd give it to him. Luckily, I did. "Here you go, buddy. There's enough to bury him." His eyes lit up. "Thanks, mister. Would you mind coming with me? My Eradicate's really heavy." "No problem, Gary. I was heading that way anyways." He takes my hand as I hold the Eradicate with the other. It's already starting to go rotten, and the blood's getting all over my clothes. At the base of the tower, it looms completely over the entire town. Before we can even walk in, a guy blows completely past us, heading into the tower. That kid's got spunk. "Hey, mister, can we take a picture together? I want to take it home as a gift to my mom. She wanted to see all my friends." I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but before I could refuse, he was pulling out a camera from his bag. "Yeah, kid, sure," is all I mustered out. He took 2 pictures, one for me, one for him. I stuck mine in my back pocket. Me and Gary walked into the cemetery. An immediate gloom falls over the both of us. We walked up to the counter. An old woman greeted us. "Welcome to the Pokemon Cemetery. How may I help you today?" I responded. Gary was shaking too much to answer. This Eradicate took too many injuries, and we need to bury it." "Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, it's 50 Pokédollars for a normal burial. but it's 35 if you take the option to bury it yourself on the top floor. Getting to the top floor was all I wanted to do. We'll do the personal burial. But mister, Gary said, you gave me 50. I pulled a 20, a 10, and a 5 out of my wallet and handed it to the lady. Keep the money. You need something to help you get back on your feet. He didn't say thanks. He just smiled. I paid the lady and took the Raticate to the stairwell. There should be a spot at Tombstone 214, top floor, she said. Gary stood there at the stairwell, frozen. I can't go up, mister. I'm too scared. And I didn't show it, but I was aggravated. I didn't want him to be scared, but I didn't want to bury it alone. All right, Gary, I'll take him up by myself. Just wait outside the door, and I'll be back in a few minutes, okay? He nodded and walked out, and squatted on the ground. I take a big gulp and walk up the stairs. He nodded. The second floor is more frightening than the first. The tombstones stretch as far as the eye can see. A little path has been driven between the tombstone to get to the next floor. The graves were not dug well. Arms of dead Pokemon stick out of the graves. Sometimes half their bodies are uprooted. Bones, bloodstains on tombs. Poor setup and execution. The room smelled of rotten flesh and urine. It was almost unbearable. And the flesh that was rotting on my back wasn't helping either. The stomach has started to fall apart, and everything it ate is starting to fall out of its orifices. Baby Ekans, caterpies, and weedles cover the lining of its stomach glands. Not even halfway across the room, I start to notice all the old men and women. Avoiding them was easy. I only had to get into 2 battles, each of which I won, with a 1-hit KO, with the help of Blaziken. After the last lady, was the floor I was burying this damn Raticate on. 14 creaky stairs led the way up to the 3rd floor. The quicker I do this, the quicker I can get out of here. It's starting to give me the creeps. Not even 2 steps into the next floor, I ran into a wild Pokemon. This is when I was basically afraid for my life. I was expecting a Haunter or maybe a Ghastly, but this was nothing of the sorts. Not even my top-of-the-line Pokedex with the National Dex upgrade could read it. It was an actual ghost. Wow. A ghost Pokemon. Not even in the Dex. Birch will be so proud of me, I thought. But this was before I knew what it was. I sent out my Blaziken. He arose from his Pokeball as he usually does, arms crossed, ready to battle. Like he always has. Ever since he was a Torchic, he was a fighter. But this time, he was frightened. The image of the ghost completely petrified him. The ghost skipped over my round. Get out, is all it said, but I had no chance but to run. The same thing happened the next 3 floors. Battles with trainers and the occasional ghost. The next floor brings back memories I won't forget. Going up to the final floor, I wanted to be more prepared. I set up my party so that Blaziken wasn't first. I didn't want to torture him with having to see Ghost for the 5th time. My second strongest Pokemon, Sandslash, was the Pokemon I decided to put up in first. But when I grabbed his Pokeball, it felt so much lighter. I decided to release him to make sure he was okay. What I saw terrified me. What lay in front of me was not Sandslash, no. But it was a rotten, bloody, fly-ridden corpse of my previous second strongest Pokemon. I didn't break down. I didn't cry. I stood strong. I checked it on the Pokedex. White Hand, the Pokedex said. A mysterious Pokemon not found in this region. White Hand. I'd never heard of it before. But before I could think, out of nowhere comes this enormous white glove of some out of the decaying mass that was my Sandslash, looking like a severed hand and blood dripping down it. I had no idea what was going on, so I ran towards the stairs. You're here. I'm trapped. And I'm lonely. So very lonely. Won't you join me? I heard in a very quick talking voice. Out of the ground came a decayed corpse. I jumped back, but I couldn't escape. It was enticing me to battle it. I had no choice. After almost pissing my pants, I stood straight to battle. Without Sandslash with me anymore, I had to send out Blaziken. I didn't want to, but he was my last resort. Go, Blaziken! I yelled fearlessly. I was hoping giving this thing the idea I wasn't scared would help. It didn't. Out from its rib cage, he grabs a Pokeball and lunges it, sending out one of those mysterious white hand creatures. I stood strong. Blaziken, Flame Wheel! I had no idea what the type of this Pokemon was, but I assumed Ghost, so I went with a fire attack. It hit the white hand, but it looked like it did little damage. The corpse lifted its left hand, which I assumed told the hand to attack me with Slash, which it did. Its claw-like nails dug deep into Blaziken, and when he finished his swipe, Blaziken fell to the floor, where he would either die of blood loss or drown in his own blood. Either way, he was dead within seconds. I wanted to break down and cry, but I couldn't let this thing get the better of me. I needed to beat it. The corpse raised its right hand, instigating another attack. The white hand lunged towards my Blaziken's bloody carcass, unable to move, even breathe. Hasn't he suffered enough? I cried out. The body lowered his arm. The white hand stopped inches before it crushed my poor Pokemon's dead head. Next one, it said. It feeds the feeling of killing. What's a human skeleton doing in a Pokemon cemetery anyway? The corpse got angry. Send your next one before I eat you next, it said in a very raspy voice. Out of fright, I sent out my Pharaoh, that my dad gave me as a present. Go, Pharaoh! Pharaoh is much more likely to be weak against the white hand, but it was worth a shot. I had a final trick up my sleeve. Pharaoh came out of the magnificent glare, ready to battle. Fury Cutter! Hopefully, a flying-type move would be more sufficient. Again, it seemed to do little damage. How much power does this damn thing have? I've hit it with 2 powerful moves. Desperate, I cried out to Pharaoh. Cover yourself! I didn't want to see it get mauled like Blaziken was. The corpse raised its right hand. The white hand came in for an attack, pummeling my Pharaoh's skull with a barrage of punches. Stay strong! I yelled out. Quiet, human! I got in return from the corpse. I don't think Pharaoh heard me. His skull was starting to open, blood shooting out everywhere, on the tombstones, the grass, on me, and the corpse. I was horrified. Pharaoh let its wings down and fell beside Blaziken. A single tear ran down my cheek. I can't let this go on anymore, I thought. This next Pokemon has to defeat it. The second to last Pokemon on my team was sent out, a Muck. The third Pokemon I ever caught. He knew Hyper Beam, which I taught him weeks ago. Its power is so high, maybe I'll finally be able to knock this thing out. Muck appeared from my Pokeball and lay there in his massive toxics. Muck! Hyper Beam! A beam of extrasensory light shot from Muck's mouth. When the light and smoke cleared, the white hand was nowhere to be seen. I assumed I had defeated it. The petrified corpse let out a loud, high-pitched scream, deafening me for a brief moment. I grabbed another Pokeball from its ribcage, and out of it came a Gengar. Finally, I thought, an actual Pokemon. Muck was the only Pokemon I could rely on from now, as the last two Pokemon were recently caught, and not strong at all. Not strong enough to beat a Gengar, at least.